Hey y'all, I'm the head librarian, my name is Mr. Mall, and you're watching Library Matters. We've got a great show for you today. Our special guest today is Kanga, and she's going to read you one of Aesop's fables. As you remember, February is Black History Month. We're focusing on great American authors this month, and today our spotlight is on Toni Morrison. We'll watch a biography on Toni Morrison and listen to a read-aloud of her book, Please Louise. I'm also happy to announce the world premiere of Book Nook, the animated series. Book Nook takes us into the world of library science, and we'll learn all kinds of fun and fascinating things from animated Mr. Mall and his friends Peter, Ilsa, and PJ. But first, let's try out our trivia of the day. As I mentioned at the start of the episode, our special guest today is Kanga from the classic children's novels Winnie the Pooh and House at Pooh Corner.
Hello, children. My name is Kanga, and I'm happy to be able to share a story with you this day. The story I'm going to tell you is called The Town Mouse and the Country Mouse. It was written down a very long time ago by a person named Aesop. Aesop is most famous for his collection of stories called Aesop's Fables. You may have heard some of them in the past. I hope you enjoy this one. A town mouse once visited a relative who lived in the country. For lunch, the country mouse served wheat stalks, roots, and acorns with a dash of cold water for drink. The town mouse ate very sparingly, nibbling a little of this and a little of that, and by her manner making it very plain that she ate the simple food only to be polite. After the meal, the friends had a long talk, or rather the town mouse talked about her life in the city while the country mouse listened. They then went to bed in a cozy nest in the hedgerow and slept in quiet and comfort until morning. In her sleep, the country mouse dreamed she was a town mouse with all the luxuries and delights of city life that her friend had described for her. So the next day, when the town mouse asked the country mouse to go home with her to the city, she gladly said yes. When they reached the mansion in which the town mouse lived, they found on the table in the dining room the leavings of a very fine banquet. There were sweetmeats and jellies, pastries, delicious cheeses, indeed, the most tempting foods that a mouse can imagine. But just as the country mouse was about to nibble a dainty bit of pastry, she heard a cat mew loudly and scratch at the door. In great fear, the mice scurried to a hiding place, where they lay quite still for a long time, hardly daring to breathe. When at last they ventured back to the feast, the door opened suddenly, and in came the servants to clear the table, followed by the house dog. The country mouse stopped in the town mouse's den only long enough to pick up her carpet bag and umbrella. "Cough, you may have luxuries and dainties that I have not," she said as she hurried away. "But I prefer my plain food and simple life in the country with the peace and security that go with it." Ahem, so that is the story of Town Mouse and Country Mouse. You might remember from before that fairy tales often come with moral lessons. Well, the same is true for fables. Aesop is famous for teaching moral lessons through his fables. Over the history of telling this story, many people have said that the moral is that simple is better than extravagant. That may be so. But my friend Llama Llama once told me to not assume that the simple explanation is always the best one. So I want to spend a little more time thinking about this. What if the moral of this story could be that there can be a cost to any extra comfort? For example, we have homes to live in, but the cost is that we have to cut down trees to build them. That means fewer places for woodland animals to live. Maybe the fact that moral lessons can be complicated might mean that the moral lesson of this story can be different for all of us. Some of us might need to learn one lesson and some might need another. Food for thought.
Thanks, Kanga. That was really informative. Let's take some time now to learn a little bit more about Toni Morrison, our great American author of the week. Here's a short biography on Morrison.
Toni Morrison was born in Lorain, Ohio on February 18, 1931. At birth she was given the name Chloe Delia Wofford. When she was only 2 years old, her family's home was set on fire by the landlord after the family couldn't pay the rent. Rather than feeling despair, the family laughed at the landlord, which Morrison felt formed her view of how to be true to yourself, even in the face of what she called monumental crudeness and a bizarre form of evil. Morrison left for college in 1949. She attended Howard, a historically black university in Washington, D.C. This allowed her to learn while surrounded by exclusively black intellectuals, while at the same time being the first time she was exposed to racial segregation, since Jim Crow laws were present in the nation's capital, but not in her hometown of Lorain. After graduation, Morrison taught English at Texas Southern University and then at Howard. It was at Howard that she met her future husband, Harold Morrison. They were married in 1958, but divorced 6 years later in 1964. They had 2 sons together. It was at this time that she took on the name Toni Morrison. After their divorce, Morrison began working as an editor for the publisher L.W. Singer. She later transferred to their parent company, Random House, and became the first black senior editor for Random House in their fiction department. She published her first book, The Bluest Eye, in 1970. It tells the story of a young black girl who struggles with the standard of beauty put upon her by the dominant white culture. She went on to publish Sula, Song of Solomon, and Tar Baby over the course of the next 10 years. Toni Morrison is best known for the novel Beloved, published in 1987. It spent 25 weeks on the bestseller list. She wrote 2 more novels in what is called the Beloved trilogy, Jazz, published in 1992, and Paradise, which was published in 1997. She also wrote many books of literary criticism. In 1998, Oprah Winfrey produced a film version of Beloved. Winfrey also chose 4 of Morrison's novels for her Book of the Month Club. Morrison also co-wrote picture books, including a book called Please Louise, with her son, Slade Morrison. Toni Morrison died on August 5, 2019 at the age of 88.
I strongly recommend that you try to find some of Toni Morrison's picture books from your library. As you get older, continue to read her books for older readers. Now, I'm proud to premiere the soon-to-be-a-hit animated series, Book Nook. Today's episode is called Nonfiction or Not, and in it we'll learn about some of the main differences between nonfiction and fiction books.
Hey there, Ilsa. What are you doing?
Hey, PJ. I'm trying to find a book about turtles.
You mean like Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, and Raphael?
No, silly. I mean like painted turtles, or the common snapping turtle, or the green sea turtle, or the spotted turtle.
Hey y'all, what are you up to?
Ilsa is looking for books on turtles.
That's neat. I'm looking for a book on people who stop crime.
You mean like the police?
No, I mean the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Peter, it sounds like you want a fiction book. Ilsa, it sounds like you want a non-fiction book.
What's the difference?
Fiction books are made up stories that we read to be entertained. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are fictional characters made up for a story. Non-fiction books are informational. We read them to learn more about the universe we live in.
I get it. I want to learn about turtles by learning more information about them, so I should get a non-fiction book.
And I want to be entertained by the ninja crime fighting adventures of Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, and Raphael, so I should get a fiction book.
That's right.
I still don't understand.
Maybe this song will help.
Does that mean fiction books always have make-believe in them, like unicorns, dragons, and leprechauns?
And that non-fiction is always about real things, like science, math, and technology.
No. Fiction can be about realistic things. We call that realistic fiction. There are lots of different types of fiction. We call those genres. Genres of fiction include realistic fiction, fantasy, mystery, horror, and many more. And non-fiction can be about things that aren't real, like mythology. Books can describe the mythologies of different cultures, and we can learn about things like minotaurs, supernatural creatures, and creation stories.
Is there more to the song that can help us remember?
There is. Fiction comes in many genres. Fiction comes in many genres, like mystery, fantasy, and horror. Non-fiction covers many topics. Non-fiction covers many topics, like science, mythology, and health.
Wow! I never knew the difference between fiction and non-fiction, but I do now. Can we sing the whole song?
That's a great idea, PJ. And kids out there, sing along if you know the words.
Fiction is a made-up story, made-up story, made-up story. Fiction is a made-up story we read to have some fun. Non-fiction has information. Non-fiction has information we read to learn new things. In many genres. Fiction comes in many genres like mystery, fantasy, and horror. Non-fiction covers many topics. Non-fiction covers many topics like science, mythology, and health. Fiction is a made-up story. Fiction is a made-up story we read to have some fun. Non-fiction has information. Non-fiction has information we read to learn new things. Fiction comes in many genres. Fiction comes in many genres like mystery, fantasy, and horror. Non-fiction covers many topics. Non-fiction covers many topics like science, mythology, and health.
We had a lot of fun today, and we learned a lot too. But knowing the difference between fiction and non-fiction is just a first step. As you go out into the world, you're going to find that a lot of what you read will try to pass itself off as nonfiction when really it's made up, just like any fiction story. The more you read and think, the better you'll be able to tell the difference between nonfiction that is giving you good information and fiction that is just pretending to give good information. Keep reading and thinking, and you'll be able to tell the difference. I know you can do it.
Did you happen to catch that bit at the end about books that pretend to be nonfiction but are really made up? That's a bit of foreshadowing for a future episode. Before we go today, let's listen to Please Louise by Toni and Slade Morrison, as performed by Lady C.
Please Louise by Toni Morrison and Slade Morrison. Illustrated by Sadra Strickland. For librarians everywhere, TM. For August, Cheney, Hannah, and Jersey Rose, with love, SS. Please, Louise, please, please. Things are not always what they seem. If you are sometimes lonely or sometimes sad, know that the world is big, but not so bad. The sky is gray now, but not for long. After the rain, birds break into song. Please, Louise, please, please. There's nothing hiding in those trees. Don't scurry too fast and miss the music of the street. You may be surprised by who or what you meet. You frown at the yard where that old car is parked and shrink from the sound of a little dog's bark. Is that house really haunted, or does it just need care? Why not imagine the joy that used to be there? Is that a junkyard? Or a dangerous trap where ghosts live and monsters nap? Scary thoughts are your creation when you have no information. Sheets of rain, black clouds, thunder. Hurry, find a roof to get under. Is that a bird of prey from which you'd better run? Or an eagle of gold when touched by the sun? A library is shelter from any storm. In this place, you are never alone. These books are loyal friends, helping you explore, dream, discover, think, learn, and know much, much more. Imagination is an open door. Step in here and let it soar. Venice is a city that sits in the sea. When pirate ships sailed the ocean lanes, dolphins are the most social. The princess sat weeping in her chamber. Juju the lion cub was lost. He could not find his mother. See, little girl, this is your world. So smile a while as the stories unfurl, where beauty and wonder cannot hide, because reading books is a pleasing guide. Fear and sadness, where did they go? Louise doesn't care. Louise doesn't know. She can understand what she feels, since books can teach and please Louise.
Well, that's all the time we have right now. Today we shined a spotlight on Toni Morrison. We watched our first episode of the animated series Book Nook and listened to Please Louise. I hope you had as great a time as I did. Till next time, remember to Thank your librarian today and every day.